Lance is such a cool weapon. Not as cool as the Charge Blade, but cool nonetheless. So I've been maining Lance in Monster Hunter Wilds ever since it launched. I was a Charge Blade main in World, and it was all I ever played, till near the end where I started to try out and experiment with new weapons. And Lance was the last thing I played in Monster Hunter World that I really vibed with. It was slightly different, albeit the guard counters were way more satisfying in World than they are in Wilds. What happened? So I wanted Wilds to be a different experience. That's why I decided to start with Lance. And Lance in Wilds is so much better, with a lot more quality of life. On top of that quality of life, we do have the focus mode. With all of this, Lance did become my most used weapon, and I did release a Lance video in my very early playthrough hours of Wilds. I still lacked jewels, gear, and of course some of the interesting things you can do in Wilds. So after that, I went grinding, experimenting, and I put together a solid build for the Lance that does very good sustained damage and comfortable to play. In my older Lance video, I did go over the basics and fundamentals of the weapon. Here I'll go over what I use and why, and some of the important things that you should actually input into your gameplay. Even though you're using a lance to deal damage, you do have a shield, and that shield is a very important tool in your arsenal, and useful to trigger the offensive guard skill. This skill is a must on any lance build. After performing a perfectly timed guard, you gain an attack percent increase. Now this perfectly timed guard has a generous window, and easily done with your guard counter. You trigger this guard counter by holding down the guard and then the circle button as the monster is attacking or during a roar. The attacks have to hit, and for it to trigger. To know how you did a perfectly timed guard, you'll get a red glow on your character. And how will you know you got the offensive guard buff? Well, just look on the right side of the screen. You can perform these counters during combos, unfortunately not after a large animation lock. So this is the part where you have to be aware of your surroundings and monsters, and unfortunately other things can happen during a hunt. The other thing is engages and disengages that pair with blocking and countering. So you do have your Retribution Thrust attack when you block with a power guard and press triangle and circle together. And how to know you're ready for a Retribution Thrust? There are different stages with this attack, where your lance glows in different colors. If you block a powerful attack, your lance will glow red and you can release a powerful thrust back to the attacker. Your guard dash into a leaping thrust is great for an engage, and your guard dash puts a shield in front of you so you can guard counter an attack. Your guard dash into a shield attack can also block and trigger a guard counter. Both of these can be chained into other combos. A leaping thrust can be done without a guard dash and chain into other combos. You can dash backwards for a larger gap disengage for another leaping attack if needed, or just putting yourself out of danger or to set up another attack. Sometimes you don't need to try and block everything. Your dash attack is great to charge in and deal continuous damage on the target, and can be used to mount if you jump and attack. At the same time, it can be cancelled into a guard counter if you guard an incoming attack. So these are some important things you should take into consideration if you're playing the lance. So please don't just hold down guard and tickle the enemy. The whole point of this weapon is being very aggressive, able to dish out sustained damage, and be very defensive at the same time. You're way more mobile than the gun lance, so use that to your advantage. Alright, with that little lesson out the way, let's take a look at the new build. Alright, here we are in the build section. I'm using an Artian Lance, but I do have a mod to change the appearance because, let's be honest, they don't look good, and we're still waiting on layered weapons. I did craft a dragon element on my lance here. The rolls are attack, affinity, and with 2 sharpness boosts. This is the roll I decided to keep because I did craft quite a few, but yeah. Crafting Artian weapons is RNG. You get what you get, so I stuck with this one. And for the Artian weapons, if you want other elements, please be sure to craft other elements against the enemies you're fighting against. I just went with dragon because it is the more neutral one. And taking a look at my skills, at the very top, offensive guard, very important for the entire lance setup. We have dragon attack, razor sharp, and guard up. All these 4 are weapon skills. So let's take a look at the jewel setup. Now, for the weapon, I do have offensive guard, dragon attack, razor sharp, and guard up because I'm running a guardian dragon, shield dragon, and razor sharp dragon. I would say guard up is something that you would probably swap out depending on what you're doing. But this is really good to block against unblockable attacks. And as you can see, it reduces the damage taken by 80%. Now, the other one I'd recommend putting on here, if it works properly, is Crit Elemental and Dragon. So Crit Element is apparently bugged and doesn't give you the appropriate values. But Shield Dragon is also great to have. I don't see myself ever removing Razor Sharp from builds nowadays. Grants a 50% chance of no sharpness loss. This is just so good. The other sharpness prevention jewel is Master's Touch, but unfortunately it is a level 1 skill that has 3 slots. That means it does not run with a substat, and this grants you 80% chance of no sharpness loss when you land a crit. So yeah, Razor Sharp is just going to be a bit better. Now for the armor, it's a mixed set. The only 2-piece set I have is the Gorma Gala. But starting off with the helmet, it is the Guardian Ebony Beta. This gives me Burst Level 2. Really good to have. The other thing is the Odogaron set gives you the Burst Boost, which extends the duration of Burst. Unfortunately, I couldn't run it here because I wanted other skills to work with the build. But this is great as a starter set. Now it has a 2-slot jewel, and I went with Phoenix, which gives you Coalescence. So temporarily increases elemental attack, power, and status effects after recovering from blights or abnormal statuses. Now read that last part right there, abnormal statuses. I'll be getting the Frenzy debuff from my Gorma Gala set. Now I can easily overcome it by attacking enemies. Now I do get an affinity boost when I use antivirus. We'll get to that in a bit. Continuing on with the Arcveld Beta chest piece. Arcveld Beta chest piece gives me Weakness Exploit 1, but on top of that, it gives me a 3 and a 2 slot for my jewels. And I'm running Tenderizer here, which gives me additional Weakness Exploit, and another Phoenix, which gives me Coalescence. For the arms, I'm running the Guardian Arcveld Gloves, which gives me Weakness Exploit 2, and 3 1 slots, which I shoved in Skill Issue. So when I take damage, has a chance of reducing the damage I take. And for the last 2 pieces are the Gorma Gala. Now Gorma Gala gives me Constitution, which is actually not bad. And the last piece gives me Antivirus 1. Now with Antivirus 1, I can shove in the 2 Sane Jewels here to give me Antivirus 3. This increases my affinity after recovering from Frenzy. Now, Frenzy is an abnormal status effect that is afflicted on the player. And using this set, by attacking enemies and of course overcoming it, we get crit chance and elemental damage thanks to Coalescence right there. For the waist, I'm running a Chain Jewel, which gives me Burst. So with this, I can level up my Burst to level 5. And an additional Phoenix Jewel here to give me Coalescence 3. And lastly, another Tenderizer to max out my Weakness Exploit. Weakness Exploit will grant me bonus affinity when I attack wounds. So we're going to be focusing a lot of wounds. And you're going to be seeing your damage numbers go up really high when you attack those juicy wounds. So I would say avoid doing your focus strike right away on a wound. So again, exploit those weaknesses as much as you can. For my charm, I'm running a Chain Charm, which gives me Burst level 2. So Charm giving me level 2, this Jewel giving me level 1, and the Guardian Ebony giving me a level 2. That equals 5. We have Tenderizer here and Tenderizer here for a 2-piece, 2, and 1. There you go. And this is the build, and it's doing quite well. Now, the other cool thing is, if you're playing in a group, you can get knocked back and all that, and usually you would run shockproof. But flinch-free is nice to help you out against those knockbacks and staggers from your teammates. For your mantle, run whatever you want. I don't really use mantles as much in the game because I don't see the need to right now. Anyway, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more content, streams, and so much more, please do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace. Bye-bye now.
Nope.